Hello and welcome to the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Eric Rosenberg. Over the years, I've had the privilege of helping businesses in the meetings and event industry grow and succeed. And I'm excited to share that experience with you. If you feel alone and overwhelmed, and if you're looking to take your business to the next level, improve your strategy and sales, and connect with like-minded professionals, you are in the right place. I invite you to visit eventbusinessformula.com and join our community of event business owners dedicated to exponential growth. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. Today I have the most known duo in the industry, the celebrities, the founder of Club Ichi, with my accent, I never know how to pronounce. It is Lise Lathan and not Lathan, as I would say in French. So it's Lise Lathan and Nicole Osibodu.
Good job.
Came together. Thank you. They are full of energy. One separately is full of energy. The two of them, they're just exploding the market. If you haven't met them, trust me, that's something that you want to do in the future. Today, we're going to talk about their journey. We're going to talk about Club Ichi, and we're going to talk about all the things that they're doing for the industry. Nicole, Lise, Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so excited.
Wonderful.
All right, lead us down the path, Eric.
Great. So let's start with you, Liz. You work in corporate America.
I did. So poor me.
Take us quickly into your journey. How did you end up in corporate America? And then what made you think, you know what, this is not for me, I want to do something else?
Well, I was told that that's what you do. You go to college and then you get a job. So I did that. I went to college and then I got a job. And so I was a journalism major, and I've always loved the idea of the storytelling pieces and the writing the story and bringing it to life. But while getting my degree is when I learned about public relations, which let me not only tell a story, but do it oftentimes around an event, whether it was a product launch or a media tour or something like that. And so that's where I started being interested in events, not knowing that events could be an actual job. So My first job out of college was in the media relations department at a high-tech company. And so my job was to try to get our articles placed in trade magazines, and it was really boring to do that. So there was that. But luckily, the company I was at they got everybody in the marketing and the comms department to be a part of their user conference. And so I had to help with registration. That was my job, to be the assistant to the lady that was in charge of reg. And I was like 22 years old or something like that, and kind of got bit by the bug of the excitement. Like people were coming to us asking all the questions, and we had all the answers. And it was my job to get the sales team all excited to sell tickets to the event. And every Monday I would do like a pep rally for the sales team to make sure that they knew what was happening and they could sell stuff. And then the lady who was in charge of registration at the Christmas party that year fell down the stairs, and a wine glass went through her hand, and she was taken out for emergency surgery, and she was out for like 12 weeks in rehab. And so they were like, well, you know what she was doing. Will you take over? And I was like,
whoa,
sure. So I did not fall into events, but because someone else fell into events, I fell into events.
Right?
She literally fell into events.
I did not push her. She fell. So, and then I didn't realize it was events that I loved at that moment. So I figured it was kind of being in a position of knowing things and being able to help people, because that's what I felt was fulfilling. And so I actually left corporate and went into recruiting. So I became a high-tech recruiter for a little while, I thought, well, that's what I love, is helping people find solutions and answers and jobs. And turns out that's not what recruiting is at all. Recruiting is finding people for jobs, not jobs for people. And that wasn't nearly as fun. So that didn't last long. And so I went into the association world and got back into events there. That's where I got my CMP, running conferences for associations. And then from there, stepped into corporate, and then never looked back, because I got to do some really, really fun things in the corporate world at Dell and IBM and a couple other companies in there, and had a real good time.
Wonderful. Thank you. What about you, Nicole?
So my journey was everybody's is a little untraditional. Mine was definitely, it took me 11 years to graduate from school. I had 2 kids in there somewhere, so that was fun. I'm a single mom and it up with some babies. I used to take tests with them underneath the table and my teachers would hold them and all that. And so as soon as I graduated, like the Wednesday after, I was like, okay, there's this agency around the corner. I went to a school that doesn't even exist anymore in Chicago. And the agency that did all of the Oprah stuff and all of the White House stuff was around the block. And so I was like,
Wow.
I want to be doing something with that. I have no idea what, but I want to be there. So I went in one day and I just asked, like, can I just come in for lunch and see your office? Because I hear it looks really cool. Right. And I just knew as soon as I could walk in the door, I don't know what I'm asking for, but I'm going to end up in there. And so I met with the most amazing people that were in there. And then of course, they showed me the office, and during the little walkthrough, they said, so what are you doing? And I'm like, actually, I'm graduating in 2 weeks. And I had this crazy idea for you. Can I just shoot it out there? And they're like, we love crazy ideas. Yes. And I was like, you've never had an internship program, right? And they said no. And I'm like, okay, what if I just build it by breaking stuff here? I said, can I be the first intern that you've ever had? I was like, I'm not 19. I'm a little older. I'm like, I have 2 kids, whatever. And I was just like, but I want to be here so bad. And I want to work on this stuff. And they were like, sure. I'm like, okay, great. 2 weeks later,
Amazing.
the Wednesday after graduation, I was somehow working Oprah's wrap party. That was amazing. And then they put me on the White House Christmas project for 2011, where I got to be involved pretty intimately with that. And then when that project was over, I was like, well, wait a second. I don't want, what do I do now? Because my career bucket list was upside down. I was like, what do you do when you start with that? And so I literally dropped my kids off in Michigan with my parents, and I was like, I'll be back. I need to go do something. Packed my car up. I had a little tiny Kia Rio and drove on the freeway
Till it
stopped. And that was in San Diego because it ran out of freeway. And there was glitter in the sand. And I said, cool, I'm here. Worked at a biz dev place in AV. That's where I met Liz. Was going through these industry events. They had a women in wine event. We became friends. I decided to do something dumb, which was start my own business by myself. And that was a terrible decision. And then we decided, hey, let's do this crazy cool thing together. I moved to Texas and here we are.
That's awesome. Why do you say it was a very bad idea to start your own business?
Oh, this is where why our business works and why it doesn't work when it's just me. I don't like, and I do not thrive by myself, meaning like in business, I have a lot of strengths, but there's a lot of weaknesses. And I very much know, and so does she, and so does everybody around us, what those are. And so when I'm in my zone of genius, that's amazing. But you can't run a business when, whoops, forgot to pay a bill, or don't know taxes, or like all of those things. And I figured out, like, I actually don't like the details. I hate Excel documents. I don't want to do any part of the organizing of the event. I just want to think of crazy ideas, and smart people that can be around me can go do it.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That, what you're saying, and thank you for sharing that. I don't know any business that has been successful if there's only one person. And I realized that in the different businesses that I started and developed, when I was the most successful and when I had someone that is completely different than me, that there's an alignment on the values, the technical capacities, the intellect, the experiences are completely different. And we both have complementary skills, which seems to be the case in what you do today.
Yeah, I think we're very similar, actually, personality and values, but the things that we're able to do, we're able to balance each other out. So I can be strategic and I can do the details even when I don't really love them, but I absolutely can't do biz dev or sales or pricing in any way. And Nicole does not even know how to spell the word spreadsheet, much less work one.
Nope.
But she could sell ice to an Eskimo. So yeah.
I like
Yeah, I saw that.
working a room, but the idea of formulating a sentence or starting an email is literally debilitating. So I can't organize things. It's just like, blah! And then, she's kind of translator, which is great. And then, I go in front and kind of whoop up the stuff and go, here, what do we do with this?
Mhm.
So, and then that's how it really flows. But I think our ethos on like how we love to live life, the energy that we come to that as is very complementary and very similar, and a lot of sameness in there too. And I would say that one of the biggest reasons also that we work so well is because we travel really well together. And because I see that, and then I just obviously watching other people or hearing about other people's businesses, if you can't be in the worst travel situation or the best one together and not want to kill each other, you have nothing. You can't run a
Absolutely.
business. So that was a check mark. Great. Whoop, we're doing it.
Absolutely. Now you say that and remind me of like in 20 years of organizing meetings and sales meeting and product launch incentive trip in over 50 countries in the world. I don't have one project that was executed exactly the way it was planned. There's always something that is happening. But anyway, so you're coming together. When was the idea of Club Ichi born, and how did you decide to focus on B2B event marketers?
Oh, okay. So it really was back when we were at an industry event together that the idea really started. So back in 2016, when we realized that the industry events really, really sucked. And because they're all keynote, breakout, expo, and they're just boring as crap. And we, at that point, we're senior level event professionals, and I don't want to just sit in a room all day and have someone talk at me. I want to be able to share and solve problems and hear what other people are going through. And the industry events just weren't doing that. And I had run some unconferences back in the old days of Dell and another company that I worked at. And so we were trying to bring that idea of the unconference to these events. And they just didn't really want to do it because unconferences are, I mean, just by nature, they're a little chaotic. They're a little unpredictable, and you definitely can't control who ends up leading a session. And so they just didn't want to do it. And so we decided that we were going to create our own event that was all that. We were like, it's basically going to be all coffee break. We'll figure out what people want to talk about. We'll create the agenda on the fly, and that will be the event. So we rented the Children's Museum here in Austin, Texas, and we invited people to show up, and it turned out 87 people flew in from all over the US to try out our first event.
I didn't even know we had 87 friends.
It was great. And, in the end, the big piece of feedback we got at the end of the day was, hey, next time, could we have adult size furniture? Turns out children's furniture wasn't cutting it.
What do you know?
We learned. And that was in May of 2017. And we then decided to do the event again in San Diego. And we got adult size furniture that time. We had even more people join, closer to 100 people that time. And it became a thing. And so we kind of took a little side quest. We started an experiential agency with some friends, spent 4 years running that agency with them and doing all those things. But as the agency grew, it was really focused on designing events and creative and doing those things. And what Nicole and I found our passion in was not what box the event was in, but what the people did once they got in the box. So we separated from the agency in July of 22 to really focus on that community side of events. And the Community Factory was born to help clients create community at their events. But all those people that came to those original events we made kept going, hey, where's the community? Where did it go when you left the agency? And we were like, community? What community? We didn't have a community. And they're like, yeah, you did. Where'd it go? So they kind of forced us.
Personally, were like, no, this is what you're doing. You're bringing it back, and I don't love rules. I don't like people telling me, like, oh, this is the direction we're going to go. I'm like, that sounds boring. And if I'm bored, I'm not in it. I can't fake it. I can't pretend. I never worked in corporate in my life. I don't get it and I don't like it. But it's good that she has, because we have people, we need to speak both languages, but to me, I'm always like, well, why not? Because I've never really had that structure of having to follow somebody else's plan or, kind of considering everybody else as we grow and not being the one to make the decision. So as people were like, where did it go? Let's bring it back. We're like, okay, that sounds amazing. And then, to us, we were thinking through as a business, a product offering is, okay, cool. So then we're going to grow community for brands or for other people. And so we created this thing called Community as a Service. And we're like, yeah, this is awesome.
Because this is what happens. So we do these spontaneous think tanks, these unconferences for clients via the Community Factory. We go into their event, we do this. And then the clients would say, oh my God, you built such an amazing community. How do we keep it going year round? And we're like, oh, we have a formula for that. And we would teach them the formula, and then we would help them like the idea of creating the community. And it was great. So we kind of pivoted the Community Factory to do all of that. We'll do these think tanks and we'll do community as a service. And not a damn person bought it.
Yeah. We're like, look at this. It's for sale. The stocks are, the shelves are stocked. And then it's like,
nothing.
And then people were like, then they kept checking on us. Like, are you guys okay? We weren't doing like as cool of stuff anymore. We weren't throwing big things. because we thought that, well, this is what you do, you productize it. And then
Nothing.
fast forward, nothing. Fast forwarded is we don't do client work anymore. We do a little maybe consultation on the side, but we fully leaned into Club Ichi as its own community. So in March of 2023, we were like, oh, we're a community at the time, and in this club, and we had 15 people. We're like, okay, awesome. Fast forward to today, we have over 11,000 people. And we fully are doing this and have figured out how to monetize it enough to still be able to give, but be able to support a business from that. And that's by truly doing exactly what we know to be true, and nobody else's version of that works, just ours. And that's what people expect and know. And so that's really where we are, is in our element. And we get to bring people along with that. And that's what they expect from us and hope from us, which is fun.
That's absolutely wonderful. And several things that you mentioned are very important. First of all, there is no shame of making some money, because you have families, you have a business.
This is hard for me. Say it again.
Trust me, I've been there, and I can tell you about imposter syndrome, and I can tell you about a lot of things that I have to overcome. So I hear you. The thing is, if you have a business, like when you go through a difficult time or recession, and the choice is you keep everyone and you go straight into the wall, there's no more business. Or you take tough decision and keep those you can keep, so that at least you still have a business. Now extrapolate that to what you're doing. There's absolutely no shame of you providing service, you're providing community, providing a lot of things. You need to make money. It's not just, It's not a charity. On the other hand, or not on the other hand, but parallel to that, what you say for me is essential. When people came to you and ask you, where's the community? There's an epitome of solitude and being lonely. And trust me, as a business owner, it's even worse, because you're really on your own. But the point is, the more we connected through AI, to technology, the more people wants to come together. And kudos to you to analyze that. Now, how did you grow in less than 10 years from 15 to 11,000 people?
Well, I think that's the interesting part. Like, we joke about being a 20-year overnight success, because we've been building this network for a long time. I'd say just never activated it. Like, I have never been that corporate event professional that only sits around and does my job. I've always been engaged and involved in the industry, being on committees and being a president of the board and doing all those things, because I know that once you get stuck in navel gazing, you're lost when you get laid off. Like, you have to look out. So I've always been doing that. So I feel like my network was always really strong. So, and during when we were creating those events during the pandemic, when nobody could travel, we started doing we invented the idea of virtual adventures. So every single Friday, we would go to a different country via Zoom and a cell phone, and we would invite other people to go with us. And so we started building this following of people that, again, we never activated as a community, but they started to get to know Liz and Nicole, and these crazy things we did, and these crazy things we convinced other people to do, which was really fun. And so when the time came we rented a ranch in Waco, Texas in December of 22, the 15 people came to it, and they're the ones that convinced us, you need to start a community. And we were like, our company's called the Community Factory. What are you going to call it? The Commies? Like, that would be a terrible. So they were ideating on names, and I had come across this Japanese phrase, Ichigo Ichi-e, which means one moment, one time, which is the feeling we all try to create with our events. And one of the people at the event, he was like, that's it. You've got to name it Ichi. And he looked at his phone, and he looked up, and he went, I did it. I bought it. And we said, you bought what? He goes, the domain, weareichi.com. You now own it, and you have a community. So we started it with a Slack channel, a very simple web page, and then just some monthly supper clubs. We had a friend who has kind of an Airbnb-like business called Lodgewell, and she'd give us a house. We brought in a private chef, and we just had 10, 15 people each month pay money that all went to the chef. We weren't trying to make money off of it. And so we just kind of started growing the conversation. So we went from 15 to all those people that remembered us from during pandemic times hearing about it and joining the Slack channel. So by the end of that year, we had 600 people in the Slack channel. Wow. So that was like December of 23. And it was at that point that we said, let's try to monetize and see if we can do something here. Let's turn on a paid membership. Let's see if we can get some partners to help us grow. And so from December of 23, we decided to do this 12-hour live stream So the guy that bought the URL, his name is David T. Stevens, fittest man in events. He said, let's do an old school PBS telethon, where you know how they do the membership drives and the donation drives, and let's do to launch Club Ichi as a membership community. So we did that. We're like, what the hell? Let's do it. And we were
That's
like,
awesome.
In
The
12 hours.
the idea was 525 at 5
Yeah.
a.m. to 5 p.m., 525 paying members on that day would launch everything. So we did it. We did this 12-hour broadcast and we got 18.
But we were wearing pajamas and sequins. Didn't matter.
Lise, I would like to continue that conversation on the growth. David is an amazing person and was actually a guest on my podcast a few months ago. I know that Nicole has to leave us in 3 minutes
Yes.
because she has another conference. I would like, before you leave, Nicole, tell us about the idea of the secret travel.
Yes. So back in 2019, we're sitting around and everybody at the end of these spontaneous think tanks would say, gosh, it just feels like family. And I'm like, oh my God, we should do, or you said, I don't even know. She said, yeah, we should do a family reunion. And I was like, oh my God, what if we did a family reunion, but it was in a secret location and nobody knew that they were going? And we called it Secret Family Reunion. And they were like, we're going to do it. So we literally we filled this airplane. So we had 80 experiential professionals show up on November 2nd at 2 p.m., at the TWA Hotel by JFK to pack for 5 days for 65-degree weather. And then we revealed that we were going to Tuscany. People lost their minds. And that was in 2019. And still, I mean, it is now 2025. People chase us down the hallways when we're in events and we're like, they may not even know that we did the trip, but they're like, wait, you did that? Or what is the secret? Like they want to hear about this thing that we did that would like shook the industry. So back by popular demand, we are going to do the second and probably final one in April of 2026. And so the big thing for us is we don't like to do the same thing twice. Ever. And so how do we reapproach some things, some elements need to be similar or the same in theory, but reapproaching how we approach it is really fun. And that's our biggest brain baby as far as because people have high expectations of having no expectations. And so when we think, well, how do we blow their mind? It doesn't need to mean it needs to be bigger or better or different or what it just needs to be approached separately for the first time. And that's a really fun project. So that will be opening, the interest form will be opening soon. And this time we'll have 50 people. We have the most amazing location chosen.
Now we have to keep it a secret for a year.
Yeah. And it's really cool because I think it gives us the opportunity to bring in some brands that are event adjacent or more like travel and marketing and like human being centric, which is really fun because not that those brands couldn't do it, but they don't either need to, it doesn't benefit them. But this ready-made experience that we have can be really cool from a content side. So we're trying to get some bigger partners around that to really show like, here's what's possible for a turnkey experience for them and still blowing the minds off of event people, showing them like, if we can do this and you just pull something from it and do something different with what you're doing.
Yep.
All right, go.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bye.
I love you.
Thank you. Love you too. See you soon. She's amazing. I remind me what she just said when I had client, obviously we were doing incentive travel for them every year. I keep telling them it's not more expensive or bigger, it's different. So
Correct.
that people cannot compare and they're leaving an amazing moment. But so back to the growth of Club Ichi, you have this marathon of 12 hours online, 18 new members, and then what?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was December of 23. And then it really started to snowball, kind of word of mouth. People were like, wait, you did that 12-hour event? Because it wasn't just one big 12-hour thing. We had over 75 speakers as part of it. And they were from 5-minute to 10-minute segments. And it was run like a TV show, just boom, 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 boom. And so because we had those 75 people as a part of the show and then sharing with their networks, like now this is how growth happens, right? So it's this word of mouth, people sharing online, I'm a part of this thing. So that was really the direction that we had been going in and adding, on a whim, I started putting this idea out on LinkedIn that was just a what if. And I put this out on LinkedIn of not expensive, but things that I had seen in the industry that you could maybe incorporate into your event. What if you did this in your event? And that started driving people to sign up for our newsletter as every single day. So now every day at 2:15 Central Time on LinkedIn, I have a new what if idea. And that has grown the kind of free version of Club Ichi of getting people in there to over 11,000 people now. And then from the in just a year. Yeah,
Phenomenal.
I know. And then my followers on LinkedIn grew. I think I'm at 23,000 followers on LinkedIn. That it's just been really fun to share things with my network and their networks and have that grow. And then the premium insider memberships, we've now grown to 400 paying members. We'd love to be at 1,000 by the end of this year. I think that's a intimate enough group that we can still take care of. And then it gives us enough financial runway to care for ourselves so that we're not hustling for where it's going to come from next month, you know? So as we've really shifted our brain to learn how to run a business and not run a community, because we've never previously, let's be perfectly honest, because your audience are all business owners, we'd never run a business before. I mean, I came from corporate and I didn't have to run a business. And then when she and I went to join this or launch the experiential agency, we were more or less employees of the agency. Even though we were founders, we weren't the ones having to worry whether or not we hit payroll. We weren't the ones having to do, we were just kind of marketing and ops and making cool stuff happen. So when we jumped over here, we had some clients and we did some things. But when you go back and look at the difference between a consultancy and a business, we were consultants. You know, we weren't operationalizing things. We had no systems. We just didn't really know what we didn't know. So we hired a business coach. We got him to help us understand what we really needed to figure out. Like first person we hired was an accountant tax strategist to just manage that stuff. Because Nicole and I both know our weaknesses and we're like, I can read it, but I just can't do it. Right. So very first thing we did. And then after that, now we've kind of figured out, like we toyed around those first 2 years of just the community factory of how we were driving business and like, you know, building this community as a service idea, not having any clients. It was super stressful. And then we took a bit of a walkabout where we took on some clients that took us out of our zone of genius. And they were really fun, cool projects, but they were draining emotionally and resource wise. And despite taking on really cool clients, completely drained our bank accounts. So we were taking on risk that was unnecessary, but on behalf of kind of we're a good partner to you, that put us in a bad place. And so for us to figure out what's a business, what's MRR mean to us, what is this, it was a journey, you know? And so it took us a year and a half to figure that out. So
for those listening, it's monthly recurring revenue.
Yes, monthly recurring revenue. Because, you know, when you're just taking on projects, that's the life of a consultant, is that feast or famine. Like you've got this amazing client, you do these amazing things, and then they go away. And now you got to go find another client. And so living that wasn't really what we had hoped for. And so having something that felt a little more businessy was great. And Nicole and I were doing this client event in Amsterdam, and we went to the Heineken Museum. And at the end, we're sitting there holding these Heinekens, and I'm like, Nicole, this guy makes one product, but he makes 800,000 of them an hour. Why are we trying to do so much?
Bingo.
So that's when we're like, we're going to double down on Club Ichi. That's our thing. And client work can still come in. And then we have the opportunity to choose if it's a fit for us and if we can really help them and not feel like we have to take it on to make payroll. So now we've kind of greased the skids to make this year amazing.
You know, you're mentioning so many different things, and thank you for sharing all of that, Lise. The first thing that I caught my attention is what are you measuring? You're talking about MRR, but it's so important. You don't need to measure 15 things, but those are a few things. And having your dashboard, and those are the KPI, the key performance indicator that I'm measuring every week or every day or every month, depending on those measure. What is the leading indicator? What is the lagging indicator? And to your point about business, most of the people that I'm helping are small business owners. And guess what? They did exactly like I did. I fell into it. I organized a project and I was like, this is my company. This is my brand. Nobody's going to do it better than me. And I'm going to do everything myself. And then I was going like to crash in a wall. And that's where you start thinking, say, okay, instead of running from one project to another in this hamster wheel and being stressed all the time and extinguishing fire all the time, what am I good at? What do I want to build? How am I going to run myself? And those are not rocket science things at the beginning, and it helps you get a real business. It helps you get life.
Right.
And it helps you to have time to focus on what you like, but also what you're good at in your business.
Right. Yeah. I think the biggest game changer for me was reading a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Yes.
That was the light bulb moment for me that made me go, We've been thinking about this all wrong because I think up until that point and up until the point where we hired a business coach, we kind of thought of pricing as in how much money do we need to make to pay the bills and pay ourselves in the next 30 days. And it was very much a chase and a high stress environment. And so to actually figure out, wait, let's think of top line. How much can we just always bring in all the time?
By the way, Dan was also on my podcast when he was
Well, tell him I love him. And I've listened to his book 9,000 times over and over again. I actually am already listening to it again right now, all the time. I love it.
Well, actually,
it's so motivating.
He's got a very inspiring story. But again, the principle of time management.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love his book and I love what everything he's writing about. There's a lot of things that I was doing before as many other people. And if you go to the origin of time, everything going back to Plato and the cave and the principle, and do it like you mentioned every day to 15. Gosh, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of discipline. But look at the results you're getting. So congratulations. That's really amazing. So you're focusing on B2B event marketers.
We are.
And then you're going to double down. What is Club Ichi in 10 years? And what are Lise and Nicole doing at that time?
This is such an exciting conversation. So I think, the reason that we focused on B2B event marketers is because I was one, and there was not really a home for me to actually find real community and find what I needed. So I was a member of many of the industry associations, and they serve their purpose to give you professional development or to give you that one moment per year where you get together with people and to build your network. So you have some people you can call on, but they just don't serve that year-round, like, event marketing hotline kind of experience. And I knew that that was needed because people would always reach out to me to ask questions. I'm like, and I bet if I brought several of you together, and every time we ran a spontaneous think tank, we saw the light in people's eyes. I mean, like, there are other people like me with my same problems. This is magical. And so we focused on that and we've grown it from there. And saying B2B event marketers does not mean that we don't have associations or nonprofits or other event professionals as part of the membership, but it means that our conversations are really focused on more of the strategic side of events and events that drive pipeline and revenue. But nonprofits and associations don't normally talk in those words. They're talking about driving memberships and donations, which are just products. It's just pipeline and revenue. And so getting them to understand that helps their organizations become more sophisticated, and it kind of raises the integrity and level of all events to make sure that everyone understands that they are the P in the P&L. They're not the L in the P&L, and that's what we're trying to help and support. So yeah, I think where we are in 10 years is kind of going in the direction of media company meets community, because the media that exists is very reporting focused, which is great. But what are event professionals watching? There are no TV shows for us, really. Like, you can watch the horrifying documentary on Fire Festival or something that. But where's the fun, So we're working on a reality show that would bring that event mind to destination. So it's kind of Anthony Bourdain meets Somebody Feed Phil with a little bridesmaid sprinkled in. So we can make it fun and we can open up the opportunity for people to see the world through the eyes of how an event professional would view that destination. So that'll be fun. I would love to have a magazine that's just for our insiders. That's really like, deep, thoughtful, almost Fast Company Wired level of insight reporting and things like that. And we want to call it Moulet. So it's spelled like mullet because it's business in the front, party in the back. So like we want to see all of these things happen.
That's wonderful. Lisa, I love your energy. I love Nicole's energy. I love what you're doing. Congratulations. I'm so glad you took the time to speak on the podcast today. I think it's wonderful and inspiring to listen to you and what you're doing. I have two last questions for today.
Yeah.
The first one, how do people get in touch with you?
Oh, I am everywhere. I'm like glitter. I am in everything. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on the Club Ichi Slack channel. You can find me through Carrier Pigeon. But I would say LinkedIn is the first place to start, and then joining Club Ichi and then jumping into the Slack channel with us. That's where all of the magic really happens. Again, it's like your event marketing hotline. And we're probably about 40% corporate brand side event marketers, 30% solopreneurs that are working on corporate programs, and then about 30% agencies, suppliers, the ecosystem of events that helps those corporate folks be successful.
Wonderful. And my last question, when we meet again in 1 year with a bottle of champagne, What are we going to celebrate?
We're celebrating that we hit 1,000 premium insider members. We have already started celebrating that David T. Stevens guy is now part of the team. He is officially head of events and wellness, which allows me to focus on community and content and allows Nicole to focus on partnerships. So we're probably celebrating another team member at that point. And we are definitely looking at how we can give back to our members, because the idea is not to be super ridiculous, crazy rich people with a private jet, but it is the idea of really, when we started this, we said we just want to write off alcohol and fly business class. And so far we're writing off alcohol. We're not quite at the business class part yet, but if we can help give that to members, that's what we would like to do. My dad said that the only rules in business are to make money and have fun. And we're doing a great job of having fun. So we're adding that money piece to it now, and we're going to get there.
Well, I have a friend who said, if you go into a plane, when you board the plane, always turn left.
Oh, that's the grand goal. Heck yeah. I love that.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Business of Meeting podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoyed the show, the most important thing you can do is leave a review and share it with your colleagues. It really helps spread the word. I truly appreciate your support. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't forget to visit eventbusinessformula.com to learn more about how we are helping even business owners like you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.